Hi, so I'm Gabrielle Gambina and I'm running a project called Ibiza Produce. We are currently here on Can Muson farm in Ibiza on the east coast, southeast coast of the island. The project is run by an NGO, Ibiza Preservation, that has been working now on the island for 15 years with all sorts of projects in terms of conservation of both Ibiza and Formentera. Ibiza Produce is a project dedicated to supporting local farmers, promoting local consumption, and thereby increasing the land surface that is cultivated. So the project came about because there were a number of large forest fires in the summer, especially in 2010 and 2011, that have left the landscape pretty marked. And one of the ways to overcome forest fires, or the danger of such fires, is to cultivate land. The majority of farmland on Ibiza has been abandoned over the years, particularly with the arrival, shall we say, of tourism, which has led many Ibicencos to prefer a lifestyle of working within the tourism sector as opposed to working the land, which can be quite burdensome, very hard in terms of the long hours, being exposed to nature and all the elements. And therefore this has led to a situation now where the island is heavily dependent on imported produce, which, as we know, is not good for the environment, but also for the sustainability of this island. When we first started off with the idea of Ibiza Produce, we ran a research project with various stakeholders on the island to identify the bottlenecks and challenges between demand and supply of local produce on the island. We identified quite a few bottlenecks from this research. Some of them, I won't go into the whole list of them, but one is water, the availability of water, which obviously in the summer months is a big issue, particularly when we have a disproportionate amount of people living on the island. Another issue is the fact that we are an island, which means that the costs of inputs are way higher than the cost of inputs for a farmer on mainland. And therefore, if somebody is producing in, say, Andalusia, their costs of production are lower than somebody who's producing in Ibiza, which then means if they wanted to sell their produce here, they sell it at a lower price than what the Ibicenco farmer can afford to sell his at. So price point is a very important and sensitive factor here. Another issue that we have is the seasonality of tourism, of demand for produce, which means that demand increases, what should we say, 10 times in the summer months, which means that local production cannot keep up with demand. Therefore, the consistency and the volumes have to reflect the demand, and that's where the challenges come in terms of how a farmer can go from small production to large production over the various months, making it quite challenging. And then there is the commitment of restaurants and chefs to the farms in terms of yes, I want to buy X tons of, say, tomatoes over the 3 summer months, for example, and I'm willing to buy them at a certain price, which could be negotiated beforehand. But then it's actually them meeting that demand later. So we've had circumstances, unfortunately, where the chefs have a verbal agreement with the farmers, but then they don't live up to it when it comes to actually buying the produce. So there's all of that. Then we're obviously farming is all related and dependent on weather. So if you have any plague, any pest problem, or any climate issue, it's gonna heavily impact your crop, whether it's consistency of the crop or the volume of the crop. And therefore restaurants would rather rely on a distributor who's bringing in a consistent amount of product from mainland, for example, as opposed to a farmer who may or may not have enough volume for them over the summer months. So there's always this issue that comes up. So we allowed ourselves a year, so just under 12 months of time to speak to all the various stakeholders within the agricultural sector. So we spoke obviously to the government bodies, we spoke to the cooperatives and associations with farmers, we spoke to individual farms, we spoke to the agricultural college to understand also what's happening with the aging farming population, for example, and who the newcomers are, who are the students that we have today in the agricultural college. How can we improve that, because it is a worldwide issue, more so in Ibiza. So we gathered as much information as we could around these topics. We prepared a report, and we spoke to government, and we reported our results. And then what we did is we invited the stakeholders to a meeting where we presented the main highlights of our research and invited them to input. So we had really successful and productive actual meeting with all these people. And I think it became very clear that there are key themes, but there's also individual concerns in all of this. So even though you may work on finding a balance, you then still have different individual farmers who have their own issues because of the location maybe of their particular piece of land. Maybe they are part-time farmers, not full-time, so they have a time issue. So each one has its own intricacies, shall we say, right? But I think it's important to start somewhere and then take it from there.